Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
Hello and welcome from our studios in Berlin. Coming up on the show, reaching for new heights. Rock climbing is on the rise in Germany. It must compute. Nick Gentry creates art from old floppy disks. And Island Escape. We explore Croatia's biggest island, Krk. But we begin with the summer edition of Berlin Fashion Week, which is a big deal for young designers eager to get a chance in the spotlight. And the Designer for Tomorrow competition is tailor-made for that purpose. This year, British designer Stella McCartney was patron of the event and was pretty impressed with what she saw.
It's just a few hours till the grand finale of the Designers for Tomorrow prize for upcoming fashion stars. In a luxury hotel in Berlin, event patron Stella McCartney casts a look at the finalists' collections. She and a jury had narrowed the field of 350 applicants to the best 5 contestants.
I have to say, it sounds really cheesy, but I think they've all really won because they've really learned through this experience, I think. And they've not only kind of learned about, you know, what they may need to do to enhance or develop their collection. I think they've learned a lot about themselves.
It's pure coincidence that all the finalists turn out to be women. The submissions were made anonymously. All that counts is talent.
I think the girls seem to really understand that they need to know themselves and know their own hearts, in a sense, to get their signature across.
The final preparations began a few days earlier. The 5 finalists come from Germany, Britain, and Romania. They all studied fashion, and some of them are showing their graduation projects here. They take the prize very seriously because the Designer for Tomorrow award offers the winner the chance to produce her first commercial collection and to present it at Fashion Week.
There are so many people who study fashion and try to make a go of it. And this is an opportunity for people like me who don't have such a moneyed background to show their things in Berlin. So it's a wonderful chance to be noticed.
European fashion retailer Peek & Kloppenburg initiated the prize in 2009. For the past 2 years, American designer Marc Jacobs has been an advisor. This year, Stella McCartney became the patron of the award. Many young designers see her as a role model. The 41-year-old is hugely influential, and she has certain principles she follows to the letter. She's a vegan, and her collections are entirely leather and fur-free.
Increasingly, as I get further into my career, I really see the need to encourage and inspire and support the next generation of designers. If I can lend any kind of support and sort of inside information, then I'm really happy to do so.
The award ceremony is one of the highlights of Berlin Fashion Week. More than 700 guests streamed into the tent at the Brandenburg Gate, guaranteeing the young designers a lot of attention.
You're very nervous and you're very excited. They all seem very excited, which is nice. It's not just all nerves, so that's good. I think that you're just a bit overwhelmed. You're not. For me personally, I don't think I was aware of the magnitude of my first show.
At the show, each finalist presented several complete looks, all in just a few minutes.
It's Joanna.
The winner, this year's Designer for Tomorrow, is the Romanian Ioana Ciolacu-Meron.
She just really sort of had a great point of view and a lovely silhouette, quite architectural, quite statement, but at the same time quite wearable. And I think that's kind of what I'm looking for in these kind of things. Somebody that's really new in the way that they approach design, but also at the same time somebody that you feel you want to wear.
Paradox is the title of the collection submitted by the 31-year-old designer who currently lives in London. Winning this award will give a big boost to her career.
I'm not realizing it, like I'm out of my head and somewhere else. So, yeah, I think it's a great thing because I remember thinking of the other winners, past winners, how lucky they were. So I guess I'm lucky, but I cannot feel it yet. So.
It must seem a little surreal to Ioana Ciolacu-Miron. Last year, she didn't even make it to the final round, and this year, she is the designer for tomorrow, 2013.
Now, climbing is a sport that's grown in popularity here in Germany in recent years. In the city, you can practice in specially constructed climbing gyms or on climbing walls. But the real die-hard fans, of course, head out of town for the hills.
The crags of Franconia in southern Germany are a good place to climb. Alexander Megos and his friends train here regularly. The 19-year-old has been rock climbing since he was 5. He's one of the best young climbers in Europe and was even European youth champion. He scours the world for exciting new climbs, and he says rock climbing is not dangerous.
The anchors in the rock face are very firm. You can put your weight on them without any problem. They can take loads of several tons. At first sight, climbing might look risky because of the height, but if you look more closely, you'll see it's not dangerous at all.
Rock climbing has become a popular pastime and is no longer the preserve of experts. The number of climbers in Germany has doubled over the past decade.
It's a great exercise and a challenge. You can push your boundaries and you really get to know yourself. It's wonderful.
There are many different techniques and kinds of grips. You don't just take the same route until it gets boring. It's always demanding and always new and different.
Membership has been rising fast in the German Alpine Club, the world's biggest climbers club. Last month, it reached 1 million members.
Rock climbing has been gaining ground for 20 years now. First slowly and faster in recent years. Many more people know about it nowadays.
Sports and exercise are indeed moving up, at least in Germany. The financial crisis of the past few years has hardly dented sales here. In fact, sporting goods manufacturers make healthy profits. Big city folks spend lots on equipment and don't even have to travel far to use it. That's because climbing walls are springing up across the country, often in old factory buildings. And of course, indoor sport isn't affected by the weather. There are already 400 climbing centers in Germany, most of them quite new.
I think people are looking for more extreme experiences in their everyday life. Climbing certainly fits the bill. It's an all-or-nothing sport. Either you get to the top or you don't.
Bouldering is a kind of rock climbing that does without rope or harnesses. The maximum height is usually less than 10 meters, and it's cheaper. Bouldering doesn't require much equipment. Perhaps just a pair of shoes.
As opposed to route climbing, bouldering often involves overhangs, deep ones, with just a few scattered holds. You start here with your hands and feet, and higher up, you just have the holds.
Climbing used to be an entirely outdoor sport. The views were all part of the experience. You would only train indoors when the weather was bad. But that's all changed.
What used to be training facilities have turned into real sports centers for indoor climbing. And now bouldering is really taking off. Climbing has become a sporting activity in its own right. I call these people fitness climbers.
Whether on a real rock face or on an artificial face indoors, climbing remains a sport for individualists, where you can test your limits.
If you remember these, you're from my generation or thereabouts. This is a floppy disk, the precursor of the USB stick. Mind you, you need loads of these to store what you can on a stick nowadays, so they're defunct. But not for Nick Gentry, an artist from London. He's been collecting loads of them to create intriguing works of art.
Floppy disks. In the 1980s and 90s, they were an inescapable method of storing data. Now they're obsolete. But here, they're being turned into art. "33-year-old Nick Gentry grew up with floppy disks, stored computer games on them, and swapped them with his friends. Now he uses the plastic diskettes as canvases.
Why should anyone just use a plain white canvas? And I suppose when I thought that, then I thought that it was kind of like flipping the idea of the subject and kind of building the subject into the work, into the canvas.
Before he takes brush and paint in hand, Nick Gentry paints with the diskettes. He sketches outlines of his portraits by arranging the floppy disks according to color. Only then does he glue them on.
His nose is kind of like bringing it out in 3D, if you like. So the highlight is here and the shadow is here. And then I know underneath the nose I need a sort of darker area, and then maybe something here from the mouth. So it's all about proportions.
He needs about 100 floppy disks for one picture. Gentry's art is also an allusion to the rapid development of internet technology.
I'm a big technology fan, so I think I'm surrounded by this, and I'm probably in this unique situation where I am kind of savvy with the technology of today, but also have a feeling for the technology of the past, which, you know, I guess people younger than me wouldn't really have any kind of connection to anything like this.
Gentry makes 30 to 40 floppy disk pictures a year. They've been shown in Europe and the US and are valued at between 18,000 and 40,000 euros apiece. Private collectors around the world and the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art own works of his. After Gentry graduated from the Central St. Martin's College of Art and Design in London, he posted his paintings on building walls, hoping to be discovered. Eventually, an art dealer from the US noticed him on the internet. Now he earns his living with his art. His studio is in London's East End, home to both immigrant communities and creative artists.
It's vital for me because as a portrait artist I need to be able to see people's faces, and it's an inspiration, I think. Like in a city like London there's so many people from different backgrounds, and so I think that's only an inspiration to me, really, to have that right here.
Without present-day technology and social networking, Nick Gentry's floppy disk portraits would be unthinkable. That's how people around the world find out about him and send in their floppy disks. Working together with these art admirers is an important part of his art.
I'm trying to close the gap between the artist and the viewer, and often in art there is a gap. When you walk into a gallery, it's like there can be a distance. But what I want to do is try and close it and just to kind of merge the two in a way, to kind of blur that boundary, and just to say, well, what happens if people do want to get involved and have parts of their history in the work?
Many contributors send both greetings and information about what's on the discs. But Gentry has never looked at their contents. He wants the information to be a secret, preserved in his artworks. Painting portraits over the diskettes leaves his portraits looking almost robotic, yet human. Nick Gentry describes his work as social art from the obsolete. And he manages to make the development of technology and its influence on people visible.
And another kind of art with a difference now, a piano recital taking place in a forest not far from here in Berlin. The Georgian pianist Khatia Buniatishvili loves to try new things, and when this strange venue was suggested, she jumped at the chance. Mind you, she wasn't the only one. Some of the locals were jumping around and being a bit irritable, but she didn't let that spoil her concentration.
A piano concert in the forest may not be for every classical music fan, but Khatia Buniatishvili says she likes to be unconventional.
I like to make connection with different things, to communicate different arts, like, for example, theater and music, literature and music, or nature and music. You know, I like to make things together, synthesis. It makes something more inspiring for me and more interesting.
Earlier in the day, there was a little rain, but fortunately for Khatia, it's eased off. The air is still moist and full of mosquitoes, but the 26-year-old didn't let them put her off.
They're quite aggressive, but nice, because sometimes they were listening, they were quiet, sometimes they were really aggressive. It depended on the piece. It's a joke.
As Khatia prepares for the show, her older sister Gvansa applies some insect repellent. They grew up in the Georgian capital Tbilisi. Both were taught to play the piano by their mother. And Khatia went on to become a star. At 10 years of age, she was already touring the world. The sisters have remained very close. They live together in Paris, and Gvansa accompanies Khatia almost always on tour. They even play the piano together.
It's great because we are completely different personalities. We have quite different character, but we have more or less same taste, and it's like plus and minus, you know. We just understand each other with our different characters. We still understand each other, and it makes I think it makes our playing more intense and comprehensible also, because we understand each other, so it's harmonic and at the same time intense. I like it. It's fun and it's pleasure.
So far, Khatia has released 2 albums and has had a great deal of success. In 2012, she received Germany's Echo Award for her debut album, which featured the works of Franz Liszt. The concert in the woods is part of a film being made about her.
Over dinner, she said she loves to be in the woods, in nature, and that she feels really connected with my homeland and nature and so on. So we thought, what could we do? We then came up with the idea of going into the woods near Berlin and doing a little open-air concert for her.
It was a complex undertaking. The sound equipment and a valuable and fragile grand piano had to be set up in the forest. Khatia Buniatishvili played selections from her new CD, due out in 2014.
I wanted something more personal, and I chose the theme, which is my mother. This is dedicated to my mother, this CD, and it shows both personal lives, my mother's and mine, because it's related. It starts from her and it continues in me.
Khatia Buniatishvili among the trees, an out-of-the-hall venue for a pianist who occasionally likes to strike an odd note.
Beautiful playing. As of this week, Croatia is part of the European Union, the first country to join since 2007. And that was good news for the nation's already significant tourism industry. Located as it is on the eastern side of the Adriatic, Croatia boasts quite incredibly more than 1,000 islands. We're going to visit the largest one that's connected by bridge to the mainland. It may be the biggest, but it has the shortest name, Krk.
Once a year, the divers of the town of Vrbnik head out to sea to raise buried treasure. It's a very special day for the whole village. The treasure is sparkling wine. Crates of it are left for 6 years at a depth of 30 meters in the Adriatic, where it's dark and the temperature is a constant 12 degrees Celsius. The sparkling gelatina is made with an indigenous variety of grape. Wine expert Marinko Vladic came up with the underwater storage idea.
This wine has a lovely aroma. It's very distinctive. There's a hint of the sea about it.
Nobody else is known to let their wine age in the sea. The vintners of Vrbnik want their market share to grow, especially in the European Union.
We have to fight. Without competition, you just go to sleep, and that's no good. You have to keep fighting. You need competition. We're in Europe now. It'll be better without borders. It has to be better.
Vrbnik also boasts what is perhaps the narrowest alleyway in the world, just 43 centimeters wide at one point. Krk was called the Golden Island 2,000 or more years ago. There are many rocky coves along the coast, and divers love it here.
We have the best water quality in Europe, and there are beautiful shipwrecks right in front of our door, and caves. They're all great for diving.
An underwater landmark many divers visit is this wreck, a freighter, the Peltastis, which sank in 1968. On the west side of the island is Punat, which lies in a sheltered cove. Its yacht harbor is considered one of the best on the Adriatic. Dragutin Žič built it 50 years ago when Croatia was still part of the former Yugoslavia.
There was a shortage of money and materials, so we bought old train tracks and just rammed them into the ground and laid planks over the structure. It was cheap and stable, and it's still good today.
The harbor now belongs to the Žič family. Dragutin's son Krešimir looks after their customers. Many come from Germany and Austria and return year after year.
85% of our customers come from other European countries. From the start, we have run our business in accordance with high international standards. We've really been part of Europe for centuries.
Dragutin Žič says a fascinating place to visit, especially if you like history, is the neighboring tiny island of Kozljun in the Cove, a few hundred meters from Punat. There you'll find Franciscan monks. Their monastery houses a fabulous library of ancient books, and the park is leafy and tranquil. In fact, the church, museum, and park are all open to the public. The town of Krk is the biggest on the island of the same name, with a population of 3,000. It, too, is rich in history. Tour guide Miro Čunčić tells visitors about the island's complicated history. At different times, it was occupied by the Romans, Venetians, Austrians, and French.
There are lots of bridges connecting houses across the lanes here in town. They were built when members of the two families who lived there married each other.
Krk is Croatia's biggest island, but the country boasts at least 1,000 more. So there's plenty to explore in the EU's newest member state.
Looks gorgeous. I'll have to put it on my places to go list. Talking of going, that's it for this edition of the show. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.